Hi everyone and welcome to my foundation video. To start with, I've moisturised. Make sure your skin is really moisturised but not too greasy or oily. If you're going to use a really heavy moisturiser, just make sure you blot it with just one layer of a tissue. Just separate the tissue and just blot with that tissue just so that you've no greasy or oily feeling areas because you don't want your makeup to be sliding off. I'm going to start by using a primer. This is a routine that I would do on myself, and there's some little hints and tips, professional and personal, that I'll put in here. The primer I'm going to use today is one that's easily available. It's the Gosh Anti-Wrinkle Primer, and I got mine from Superdrug. It's a sort of apricot colour. And I'm just going to put the product, I always put my products on the back of my hand. My hands are clean. And I use that then as a palette. So I'm just going to I've only put a pea-size amount and probably less than the pump would give you, because you can always add more if you want to. And I'm just literally going to put that all over my face and just really work it into the skin, on my nose. The primer is acting, as it suggests, as a preparation for your skin. So it's providing a barrier between your skin and the makeup so that your makeup doesn't sink into your skin along with your foundation. This hopefully will make it last longer, but for me personally as well, I think it's nice to think that my makeup's sitting on my skin rather than sinking in. If you have a particularly oily T-zone, so sometimes I do have a normal combination skin, my T-zone here, my forehead, nose and chin is definitely still slightly oilier than the rest of my face. If I really wanted some longevity out of this makeup, if I was going to a wedding and it was going to last all day and all night, I would probably use a different primer on my T-zone. I'll be doing a separate video about primers, so I'm not going to go into it too much now, but you can mix and match your products according to what you need. Okay, just while that sinks in for a minute. I'm then going to go on to my foundation. I always put foundation on first before concealer so that you can see how much coverage the foundation is giving you, and then you can add concealer if you need to. So the one I'm using today, this is a product by a company called W7. This is an absolute steal range of products that I've found. Apparently you can get them in some Next stores and Peacock's, but I've only found a couple of products in a couple of Peacock stores. They don't seem to stock the whole range. I got mine from an online site called Extra, and I think they had a new customers offer on that gave me an extra 15%. They're as cheap as chips, and I put all the details underneath. But the performance-wise, I couldn't really fault them for a, cheap price point. So again, I put one pump on the back of my hand. The shade I'm using today is, it doesn't tell me, Natural Tan. This is probably a shade darker than I would normally use, but I've still got some colour from my holidays. So I'm starting in the centre of my face. I'm using a Real Techniques buffing brush. I really like this brush because I like the effect it gives you just to work the product into my skin. And I'm literally just using little circular movements, as the brush suggests, to buff it in. I do sometimes use sponges, but I do like the effect, and it always seems really quick and easy using a brush. So I'm placing most of the product on my T-zone because that's where I need the most coverage. So you adapt it to suit your skin. I don't need as much foundation all over my face. I'm also going to put a little bit into the corner of my eyes because I'm quite dark there, and under my eye, just to start the concealing process there. I didn't put primer on my eyelid because if I was going to go on and do my full makeup, I would use an eye primer on that area. So if I felt I needed a bit more, I could just put a little bit more on the back of my hand This is a beauty of using the back of your hand, because the old thing of putting a blob on your forehead, on your nose, your chin, you might actually end up with too much product on your skin that you then can't get rid of. And it's much more difficult to remove product. Not impossible, but more difficult than it is to add it. And then just with what's left on the brush, I'm just going over my cheeks, because I don't need a lot there. And this way you're actually diffusing the foundation, so by the time you get to your hairline, there's basically nothing there, so it's just this nice seamless transition. I always put a little bit on my ears. If you're prone to redness on your ears, do that. And then just going down under the jawline towards the neck, but not down your neck. If your foundation's the right colour, your face and your neck and your chest should all match. You shouldn't have to take your foundation down onto your neck. So just make sure, if you are having problems with that, just try and find a shade lighter, or mix a lighter foundation with your dark. I'll be mixing this with my regular foundation until my colour goes back to my winter colour. Okay, so there we are. So I've got a nice even colour all over my face. I'm looking, and I'm happy with that. However, that's not enough for me. If that's enough for you, you could go straight to powder. Fantastic. Unfortunately, I need a little bit more help. So I'm going to go on and do any blemishes or marks that I just want to get rid of. And for that, I'm going to use, this is actually a double-ended product, but it's my Double Wear concealer. And this shade is number 2. It's light medium. It's got a little sponge applicator, this one. So again, I'm just going to put a bit on the back of my hand. And I'm going to use, this is actually a little double-ended brush. I've had this for years. But I'm going to use this sort of flat brush just to apply it. So this is going to go on any blemishes and marks. I'm just going to dab it on and then pat it with my fingers. And the idea really with concealer, try and get it the same shade. This is a little bit light for me with that foundation, but that red mark is quite dark. So the redness is being cancelled out by the slightly, just, it's not even one shade, probably half a shade too light. And then we're going to do the other end. I've got this little fluffy brush. I'm just going to go around and work that into the skin. A little bit there, just pat it in. And I'm just going to go and add a little bit around my nose. Most women get a little bit of redness around the nose. It can be hormonal, it can be hereditary, age. And again, just pat that in. Patting in utilises the warmth in your fingers, and it just melts the product and merges it into your skin. I've also got a rather unattractive little age spot there coming up, lovely. So I'm just going to conceal that. Okay, and just get rid of that on the top. And then just kind of take a step back and have a look. You're trying to eradicate any redness, so anything that you're not happy with on your face. Now, because that concealer was slightly pale for me, I'm now just going to go over, just on that little mark by my mouth, with the foundation, just to blend it in. If your concealer is too light for your foundation, what you'll actually do is highlight the blemish and the spot rather than conceal it, because anything pale will highlight, so obviously you don't want to do that. Right, I'm going to go on to under your eyes now. My foundation is giving quite good coverage under my eyes, but I've still got a little bit of darkness, and if you look down unattractively like that, you can see where the darkness is. So what I'm going to do is use a corrector first of all. and I'm using a Bobbi Brown one, and these come in kind of peachy shades, and the peach will counteract the kind of bluey purple tones that you can get around your eyes. And just pat that in. They're only subtle, they're not orange, but there are different shades. Bobbi Brown's I really like because they're very creamy, so they're great for around the eyes, but other brands obviously are available. Okay, and when that's patted in, I then like to use a different type of concealer around the eyes. This is a light reflecting concealer. This one is a Clinique Airbrush. A little bit pricey, but worth it, I think. And this one is in number 4, Neutral Fair, and it's got a little twist up brush on the end. Obviously you can just apply this straight on if you want to. I'm just so used to using the back of my hand, I always put a little bit on the back of my hand. Again, I like to control how much product goes on my face. And if you look where the darkness is, you're literally going to paint this onto that dark area, just that dark bit, and then just pat it in with your finger. You're trying to create an optical illusion of bouncing the light off that dark area, and also the inner corner, really important. And I'm actually just going to buff that in with the fluffy end of the brush because I can't get my finger in there. So if you haven't got, obviously, a double-ended brush like this, get a nice fluffy ended brush. Looks a bit like a blending brush, like the 224 from MAC. It's that kind of structure. Okay, and a nice flat brush for your actual concealer, like that. So again, I'm actually turning the brush on its side to do this. I'm finding that darkness, finding the shadow, and just painting it into that shadowy line and into the corner. And then pat it in. And just use my fluffy brush to blend in the corner. If you don't do this in a corner and it's still dark, it can cast a dark shadow over the bit here under your eye that you've just actually highlighted and counteract the effect that you're just trying to create. So make sure you really do that in a corner. Okay. So that's my eyes done. Now on camera I'm looking, that looks quite pale, but in real life it doesn't. It looks absolutely fine. Okay, all I'm going to do now is set everything with powder. And the powder I'm going to use is actually a MAC Studio Fix powder. You can use this on its own as a foundation. I like using it just very lightly as a fixing powder when I really want that flawless finish and long-lasting finish. It's fantastic. It also comes with, you lift it up, it's got a little sponge under there. I don't use this very often. Having said that, it's a bit dirty on the other side, but it's great because it's got the mirror and everything. You can take this with you for touch-ups during the day as well, so it's a really good product to use. This one's in NC35, but I'm actually going to apply it with a brush because I just want a really light covering. So I'm just swirling it around gently, tapping off the excess, and again I'm just going to buff that into my skin, starting on my T-zone and over the nose. Around the nose where I had that redness, a little bit onto the cheeks, and over my chin. If I was using any cream products such as cream blush, cream highlighter, cream contour, then I wouldn't be powdering now. I'll be using all my cream or wet products first and then powdering after. I'm also just going to take that small fluffy brush and just go under the eyes, just with the smallest bit. I just want to set everything, but I don't want to cause any crepiness, any cakiness. I don't want the product settling. I'm going to go over my lids because that's going to provide a base for my shadow. And then just check that nothing else needs concealing. Quite happy with that. Okay, so that's my base all done. So I've used primer, foundation, 3 different concealers, one to correct darkness under the eyes, one light reflector to go on the top, and one just regular concealer for concealing blemishes and age spots and anything that you don't want people to see. You can still see a bit of my glow coming through. I really recommend those W7 products. Have a look for them online. The price point for them is amazing. Okay, the last thing I'm going to do just before I finish is just brush through my brows, just to get rid of any trapped product. And then I'd be ready to go on with the rest of my makeup. Thank you. Please share and put any comments below, and I'll see you next time. Thank you. Bye.